Hello, and welcome to the Wandering Creatives Podcast. I'm your host, Allie, and joining me on the podcast today is Kristal Bell of K+S Design Co. Kristal does illustrate lettering and designing. I don't know if that's the right way to say that. And you are also a mother of 5, which I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. And 2, I'm even more excited to talk to you today about how you balance motherhood and running a small business, because 5 kids is no joke.
No, not at all.
That's a lot to handle. I cannot even imagine. 5 kids blows my mind.
Well, listen, sometimes I can hardly imagine myself, but I'm living it. So.
Oh my Lord. So yeah, I'm super pumped to have you on. And we were actually, oh Lord, when was it? Feels like forever ago, but we were across from each other at a market. I think towards
sometime in the spring.
Yeah, I was gonna say like spring, fall of last year. And your lettering and artwork caught my eye because it's very much my like personal aesthetic. Like I love that type of lettering that you do, and the colors that you use are just, they're just so like, I don't want to say poppy, but they're bright and like
fun.
Like bubbly. I love it. I love it so much. I'm like, it's something I wish I could do as well, because I love it so much that I want to be able to do it. But lettering is not my jam anyway. And if I'm remembering correctly, you had like cute little like illustrations and artwork that you do as well, right?
Mm-hmm. I've got prints, and sometimes people pick up the cards to frame or put up around as well.
So to start off, I'd like to kind of explore a little bit about how you got into your craft, your lettering and your artwork. And then I really want to dive into time management, because you got to have some good time management. First off, actually, why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us kind of a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am, like you said, a letterer, illustrator, and designer. I've really been creative since I can remember. I am actually an art school dropout. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for 1 semester, and I got pregnant with my first daughter with my boyfriend back home. And then I kind of got into I guess a phase of trying to do what I thought I should be doing as a mom. Mm-hmm. But then eventually I realized, the creative stuff, that's what, really drives me and makes me feel good. So I was teaching at the time when I started my side business, and I was just doing digital invites on Etsy, and that evolved with the wonderful iPad and Procreate and the pencil, just really the convenience of being able to take your quote unquote art supplies wherever, and just doing that in my very little spare time then with 1 kid. Maybe I had a couple by then when I was teaching, but just really playing around with it, being inspired by everyone sharing on social media. That's an awesome space. So it's really just kind of gone from there.
Evolved. I find the art of lettering fascinating, because it is something that I cannot do. Calligraphy and, again, I'm going to say like bubbly letters, but I don't know. It's hard to explain how you can like show an emotion through lettering, but you can.
That's really cool.
And it's like, I find it really, really fascinating. And like I said, I love when people can do that. And so that's kind of what we were talking about, was like your artwork and your lettering and everything has that very like bubbly, happy kind of energy about it. So what was it about lettering that drew you to that? Or was it just something, did you do like illustration first and then the lettering just kind of came along?
For sure. Yeah, I definitely was more of an illustrator initially. My invites, for example, I would pair different fonts and that kind of thing, but I would do the illustrations. But I think just like you said, it can be really expressive, but then it's also very literal because you're writing out exactly what you're trying to say. But a lot of people say that, I could never letter. It's amazing that you can do that. But I feel like it is something that there is so much character that is inherent based on the different styles that you see and the styles that people have. And I think that, I don't know, like, don't discount your own style and your own expression because, you just never know. I feel like there's someone for everyone. There's a style that might spark something in everybody. And you never know if yours is the one. So
mine is illegible cursive. Like, it's really funny because so my grandmother, who is well into her 80s, and I are pen pals. Like, we write letters to each other because she does not do electronics. Neither of us are big phone talkers. And it's funny because in every letter she's always like, "Oh, I hope you can read my handwriting." And I'm like, Grams, this is easy, man. Your handwriting and my handwriting are the same. They're both illegible. If anyone else was to look at them, they'd be like, "What the hell is this?" Sort of a chicken scratch. But so yeah, that's my style, I guess. Too much cursive going on, I suppose. Something else that I really love about your lettering and your artwork is your color theory, or the palettes that you use, because again, it's very chipper, but also just a bunch of colors that I love. So I might be impartial because I'm a huge fan of blues and pinks and yellows and just brighter kind of colors. All
yes,
just, it makes me so happy. How would you describe your art and kind of how you play with colors? Do you know what I mean? It's happiness in art form, I guess, is how I would describe it. But how would you describe your own kind of art?
I mean, I like your word poppy.
Okay.
It does, and I get that a lot at the markets. It kind of catches people's eye and draws people in. I kind of just play it by ear, I guess. I do a lot of toying around with the colors that I use in each design. I do have, my very fundamental color theory background. But I mean, it's just a lot of playing. And if I'm being honest, it's stuff that I'm like, "Ooh, that's really cute." And then I just really hope that other people like it.
That's the key. I'm finding. So if it brings you joy and you like it, hopefully someone else will too, right? Oh my gosh. What's one of your favorite things about being creative and making art?
I really think, especially now, it has become really therapeutic for me. And I'd mentioned that ultimately I decided that I wanted to come back to this because it was something that I just really, really enjoy. And without it, I just felt like I wasn't being entirely true to me. I mean, I definitely was very much a people pleaser. You do these things so that you look like a responsible adult.
Yeah.
So it really makes me happy. It's sometimes, I kind of zone out doing it. There's definitely a lot going on in our house all the time. And that's without all of the other outside things that we're all dealing with. So yeah, I mean, ultimately it's my therapy outside of the therapy that I pay for. So.
I do love that you express it in that way, art as kind of your therapy, and your I guess it's kind of your me time too. It's kind of a moment to step away and I don't want to say disassociate because I feel like people have negative thoughts when that word is used, but just to step away and lock yourself away in your own little world for a little bit and be creative and find that enjoyment from art. I think that's one of the best things about being a creative as well. When it comes to inspiration with your art, do your kids ever give you suggestions for cards or your mugs or anything?
This question is interesting because I started the invites because I was like, that's a thing that moms have to do with invitations and parties.
I was actually going to say earlier that electronic invites, I was like, that is such a great idea. And they used to be like really, really big, like back in the
Yes.
day. Yeah, yeah. It's like that's so smart.
But then on the other hand, I was like, I'm really antisocial. Like I'm really shy and not much of a party person. This is really not me. So I do still have a few that I sell, but what kind of happened when I had kids, and I might have touched on it before, is that I started moving towards what I wanted to do for me, because a lot of times parenting can cause you to get caught up in that sole identity. And I love that this is something that, I'm doing it because I want to. I get to do what I want with it. I do consult my older kids some because they're teenagers. And, sometimes I'm like, is this weird? Is this,
is this what the young folk like?
Yeah. Like, is this not a thing anymore? Like,
I need that perspective for like my stickers. I'm always like, are the millennials gonna buy this? Like people my age, or should I be going? Like, yeah.
So that's gonna be nice. Some stuff. Mom.
I can't relate to it because I don't have children, but if I were to compare it, I guess, to like falling into that trap of doing what you think you're supposed to do based on where you're at in your life. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of like what you were saying with, you have kids and then there's like this sort of perspective that you're a mom now. So these are the things that you're supposed to be doing. This is how you're supposed to live your life. Like, get a 9-to-5, do this, do that, blah, 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 blah. Sure. So I think it's a really interesting perspective that you bring from kind of that motherhood or parenthood aspect of it, and kind of feeling like you had to set art aside or your creativity aside because kind of like society was telling you to a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, the term starving artist, how many times did I hear that? I mean,
yes.
And, I went to an art school as part of a program when I was in high school. And I was like, I don't want to end up being an art teacher. Like, either going to be starving or which ironically, I became a science teacher. But I feel like that was really drilled into, maybe it's generational. I'm sure it's still going on. But I mean, now I still work full time during the day, but I'm trying to instill in my kids that you really need to do something that is feeding you and giving you something outside of a paycheck.
Yeah, it's so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long of a break, I guess, did you take from doing art or kind of focusing on it?
Oh my gosh, it was years.
Years.
So, gosh, it was at least until I'd say at least 10 years or so. I mean, and I had a lot of stuff going on then, dealing with being a kid and raising a kid and the relationship that I was in, because I thought that was something that I had to do as well. Gosh, 10 years plus before I was like, listen, nothing that you're doing right now is working.
Well, I asked that because what I really want to know is, what was that moment when you were just like, you know what, this isn't working. I want to do art. I want to be creative. Like I've got to, make a change. Like, was there a specific moment where it kind of hit you, or did you see something or hear something that kind of like brought that creativity kind of back out to the forefront?
I think probably actually teaching, and it's probably silly, but setting up my classroom every year was like the absolute best. And so that's probably really when I started getting back into the creative stuff. I was making my signage, little cute motivational posters, and messing up the laminating machine and just going all out with that and getting feedback then from, the kids, and seeing that, I was making an impact with something that I actually enjoyed doing. That was probably a pretty legitimate spark to say, hey, I could do this, I think.
That's so cool. Yeah. You know what? I have to say too that there's like a whole side of TikTok that is like just devoted to teachers, like doing that, like going wild with their rooms and like designs and all kinds of
Oh
stuff.
my gosh. I was probably not close to their level. It was really fun. And yeah, I mean, that's a part of expressing yourself to allow your kids to get to know you. And, it's still that same deal, this is me every time I'm popping up, might be standing here awkwardly, but
yeah.
and hopefully kind of get a feel for the type of person that I am.
Oh, that's so cool. We've mentioned before, you are a mother of 5. You also work full time and have your creative business. Again, I'm just like in my head, I'm like calculating hours and like, I don't understand how do you sleep or do you just work in your sleep?
I wish.
Oh my gosh. That is just, I mean, it's going to be like overwhelming at times, I imagine. And
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Well, first off, how old are all of your kids?
So my oldest is 18 and she's going to college. And I've got 15 and 3 and 16-month-old twins.
Oh my Lord. Little twins too. Oh,
yes.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine. I'm curious to kind of hear about how you organize your days and how you still, again, find time to manage your business and your full-time job and also your children and like all the things I'm sure, like the activities that they do and all of that. Like, what are some tips or how do you do it?
It's funny when you sent the list of questions. I'm like, organize is very generous.
Organized chaos.
Yeah, it's definitely that. So we are fortunate to have been able to get the youngest ones on a schedule. So we can kind of plan around that. The older 2 are relatively self-sufficient. They get themselves ready. Sounds so silly. Yes, they do.
No, I'm like, yes. These are things that have to happen
themselves.
They're almost completely self-sufficient.
Yeah, it was definitely an adjustment having the younger kids come into the picture because we got really used to that and probably a little complacent,
And then with like a 3-year-old and you said 16 months. So that's like what, almost a year and a half. I mean, they got to be like almost getting up and starting to wander around, right?
They're very much getting up. One of them likes to climb on the dining room table and everything else that she can get onto. So, but I mean, organized chaos is much better term, but we have to sync our calendars and share. Like if somebody is doing something, it's got to be in the calendar. And even if it's in there, we might screw it up somehow. But it's a lot of, I get the babies up, I'm starting my day job. If I've got breaks within there, I'm trying to address my business stuff, packing orders, creating things, primarily making stuff like market prep. That is at night. I'm really fortunate that my husband is super supportive and, will just take over everything. He likes to cook, which I don't love. So
that's a perk.
Really handles that. That frees up some time. And yeah, the teenagers are really awesome about helping out with the kids. They love them. They're like little toys almost. They can give them back when if stuff goes awry.
They start crying. Shuffle them off.
Yeah. And they love to come out to the markets. the food that's usually there is a big draw, probably more than other stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember if both of your older kids were at the market. That you definitely had at least one child with you at the market where we met.
They probably were. Yeah, I think all of them were there eventually at that one. Yeah, so I'll go maybe sometimes with one of the older kids or my husband, and we'll set up, and he'll drive back home and, help out with them here and come back and hang out. They'll walk around and shop and stuff, and then we tear down. But yeah, I mean, it definitely is a family. Yeah. Yes. That is a labor of love. I mean, you are marketing and getting yourself out there, but yeah, for people just starting, it's like, what?
And it's like the couple of days leading up to a market, you're pretty busy.
Yeah, for sure.
Just getting ready. So do you have try to make it a habit of, I guess, like sitting down for a certain amount of time every day to work on your business, or every night before bed, do you sit down and do some artwork to decompress, or do you have any type of schedule, I guess, or is it kind of just when you can find time?
It's definitely when I can find time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, evenings, I definitely do kind of wind down with doodling and stuff, but yeah, it's just really when I can fit it in is the realistic response to that. Yeah, because I never know, I can think that the kids are just hanging out, doing their own thing, and I can sit down to do something, and then they're like, just kidding.
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah.
We're not napping.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so I guess when it comes to if you, were to meet someone who is getting into maybe markets, or they want to open a small creative business, what are maybe 1 to 2 pieces of advice that you would give them when it comes to being a parent and a business owner?
I think I would say don't let kind of the chaos behind the scenes discourage your ultimate goal. Because a lot of times there is so much, and it does get overwhelming. I mean, there are times when you're like, what in the world was I thinking?
Why did I do this to myself?
Why did I say I would do 7 markets next month? But ultimately, I'll get through stuff and I'm like, wow, I did that. Don't discount your potential. And, we are so capable of things that I think we really tend to, if it sounds hard, it's very easy to kind of not want to deal with it or not want to approach it. And, you'll surprise yourself, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. There's a lot that we're capable of. So don't let the hard stuff outweigh all of the positives that can come with putting yourself out there and sharing what you really love to do with strangers.
Do you find that you still have time to create just to create? Maybe not to sell, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Do you find time just to do art for the enjoyment of art? Or is it more business focused all the time? And do you think that has kind of impacted you in any way?
That's a good question. To be honest, everything that I do is just because I felt like it. I'm generally just, doodling and doing my own thing. And then making it into something is more of an afterthought. I'm like, oh, this would be a cute sticker. This would be a fun card. I mean, the cards, I guess they do require a little bit more forethought or foresight, but yeah, because I mean, you've got a message that you're trying to convey, but otherwise the stickers and things, I like definitely positive thoughts and positive things without being toxic about it. But, I just kind of lead with my heart. That sounds kind of cheesy, but
no, I was in my brain. I was saying I was thinking the same thing. It's you're leading with what brings you joy and what you enjoy, and then
yeah,
the the business aspect of it is just kind of like a perk on top of being creative.
Yeah, that's a bonus. Yes, it's nice that I can make money.
Yeah, it's a good approach too. Because I think sometimes we, speaking generally, but also again, just speaking from my own experience, like I get caught up a lot in the business aspect of it. Like, I need to create new stickers because I'm going to this type of market. And then I'll try to create, like, do something that is specific to like a specific group of people that are going to be at this one market. And it does kind of like put an added pressure, I think, on like being creative and being able to produce something that people are going to, like, again, a specific group of people are going to want to buy. Whereas like the other day I sat down and I was like, I really like this style of tattoo that I've been seeing on Instagram everywhere. So I'm going to do some artwork kind of based off that style just to do it. And it was such an enjoyable experience. And I was like, oh shit, like, yeah, I should just be doing what I enjoy and then make a sticker or don't.
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot better.
Yeah, there's definitely like a mind shift there though. And it's good though. I like that kind of leading with what brings you joy, and then everything else is just kind of a bonus. I think that's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah, I definitely was very much the same starting out with markets. I was like, I gotta have something new. Every market that I do, I gotta have this thing, I gotta have that. But it's not sustainable and it makes it less fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, and markets, because they're already so much work, you know, there's gotta be some fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which I don't think we said this earlier, but you are based in or around Raleigh, North Carolina, right?
I'm in Clayton.
Clayton. Okay, great. So just for listeners, so when we talk about markets, we're usually talking about the ones that, like the bigger ones, like the Raleigh night markets that take place in Moore Square, and Clayton has some local markets and Apex and kind of in that area, in the Raleigh, I suppose, area. So if you did want to venture out to a local market to pick up some of Kristal's wonderfully, like, just day brightening art, you can do that. And I had a couple more questions about parenthood and creativity, which I think we kind of already touched on this one a little bit. But did you find that when you got back into art, that your kind of style or perception of what you were doing maybe changed because you were a parent? Or were you still kind of doing the same, again, I guess, like art style that you had been doing before? I guess, was there an evolution in your art? Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Definitely. When I first started, like with the digital invites, they were primarily like black and white. I was very much into, you know, having a nice layout with my negative space, and I would do like a pop of color or just a little bit. And I think maybe just like you've mentioned, color just evokes, you know, so much more emotion and has the potential to convey so much more feeling. And I guess the way that parenthood tied into that is that I was evolving, like I said, to do more of what made me happy. And so the style, I guess, grew out of that. Just, you know, I don't have to do all this black and white. I can. And it's funny because my house is like gray, which I'm trying to change. I think
there's something to be said. No, I'm the same way. Okay, like my home is gray. I think it looks very chic and like very nice, but I also have pops of bright yellow throughout my home.
Yeah, there you go.
So, you know, it's gray with pops of color.
Yeah, the pops are really fun too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I don't know, I just playing around with it more, I just, you know, am more drawn to that now. I still do love my black and white. You know, I have prints and cards. That really pops with the contrast on the page. People are drawn to that. And it's more of like a simple saying that just has this wow factor.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for like sharing your story, especially about like being a parent and doing everything, because you are doing everything. Yeah, I just got a full-time job and a side job and 5 kids, no big deal. So thank you for sharing and being also honest with it. It can be a struggle. And I don't think what I also really appreciate is you sharing that just because you do become a parent, it doesn't mean that you have to stop doing what you love. It might take you a little while to like find your way back to it, but parenthood isn't a reason to kind of like give up on your dreams or stop enjoying what you do. So I really appreciate you kind of
that sounds so nice
sharing that today, because I think it is really an important thing for people to know and hear, because I think a lot of folks, especially like younger folks who have children young, fall into that and think that's what they're supposed to be doing. I couldn't even imagine. Again, but yeah, I think it's really important for young parents to know that like you can have children and still do what you want to do, and society can take a hike.
And even age is a thing too. Like I think people get to a point where they're like, gosh, I can't switch what I'm doing now. I've been doing this for X amount of years, but
I fall into that. That's me. I'm like, I'm so old now. I can't change my ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely societal influence, but then it's just self-imposed. Like,
it is. You got to change your mindset about it. Like, I'm working on that now with age. Time is a big thing for me. Running out of time is a big thing. So I'm working on changing that. And I'm like 35, so old. I'll be gone soon.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes getting up.
Oh my God. The day after a market.
Yeah. Right.
Tell you what, my arthritic knees, they're not happy, okay?
Very much that.
It can be very rough. Especially cold markets, like your hands, I really show my age.
I've literally had people come to me and say, you look like you're struggling. I'm like, oh, do I?
Thank you. Thanks so much for that. That is what I needed to hear today. It's like when someone comes up to you and they're like, oh, you look tired. Well, shit. I put makeup on today, and for what? What was the point? Oh my gosh. Kristal, this has been so enjoyable. Like I really, really have loved getting to chat with you today on the podcast, and to learn more about you and your journey has been absolutely wonderful. Is there, besides like gearing up for a wild market season, is there anything else that you're working on, like new projects or products or anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, I do have a couple of collaborations that are in the works that I'm excited to eventually share more about. I just launched wholesale recently, which is daunting to start out, but I'm really excited about the potential that's there. And I am trying to get some apparel going, but we'll see how that goes. And
in my mind, I'm like, that's gonna be cute. Oh my gosh. Where can folks find you? Website, Instagram, all that.
Yeah, so I am on Instagram and Facebook at K+S Co, all spelled out. And I do have an Etsy shop. It's KANDS.co. And all over the triangle. I'm trying to branch out some, definitely in Raleigh a lot, but I'm doing more in Durham. I'm peeking at other locations as well, because Durham isn't branching out a whole lot. So, yeah, we'll see how things go. It's a lot of fun, even though it's a lot of work.
Yeah. That was awesome. And I will, of course, include all of Kristal's information in the podcast episode description. So you can easily click on that and go check out her Etsy and her art and everything. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been an amazing conversation, and it's been just an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Listeners, thank you for tuning in and listening to the podcast. If you have questions for me or any of my guests, including Kristal, you can call or text us on our hotline 252-419-6004, and we will answer your questions on a future episode of the podcast. Also, be sure to like, rate, review, subscribe, all of that to the podcast, wherever you're listening to it at. And follow us on Instagram at Wandering Creatives Pod.
Thanks for listening to the Wandering Creatives Podcast, a CEI media production. Please like, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, as it helps us greatly. You can follow us on Instagram at Wandering Creatives Pod and on Facebook at Wandering Creatives Podcast. If you would like to support the podcast, you can become a Patreon for just $5 a month. The link is in the episode description.